Hello and welcome to another episode of the Paper Stack Podcast. I am Brett Burky and this is my colleague here, Rick Allen. We are going to have something fun today. It's different than what we normally do, which normally we'll talk about a topic that is something you should know, something that might help you in your note business. But today we're going to be talking about something that has happened or
is happening maybe?
Is happening. War stories that Rick has experienced through his career as either a real estate investor or as a note investor. We're trying to find, for you, it's kind of like one of those things where what they say about advice, it's always good to have the advice, take it for what it's worth, take away the nuggets and throw away the rest. That's kind of what we're going to do here. Mm-hmm. Kind of take what Rick has experienced and find where, looking back, you can go, I'm not going to do that. Or I should look out for that next time I'm in that situation. But it's helpful, and people like to hear these stories, so we're going to start with some stuff. And so, Rick, start it out. Let's start it out. What is the worst note buying experience that you've ever had?
Oh, hands down, the worst note buying experience we ever had was really the catalyst for developing Paper Stack. It was so. How it goes, it was our first sort of note purchase, our first, for us, big trade, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody found us, and they gave us a pool of assets, and they were literally asking like 20 to 25 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
It was just like super cheap stuff. Like
that's cheaper than what it normally was at that time.
Even at that time, that was cheap for the time. Mm-hmm. It was, I guess that should have been the first red flag.
Were they all non-performing?
Yeah, we were all non-performing. Most of them were there was a couple that were vacant, but owner-occupied. So what happened was we got this pool of assets, and we said, look, we're interested, and we pulled out, for us, what was a lot, about $250,000 worth of product. That's a lot of it's a lot of juice, a lot of notes. And we ended up.
Was the tape way bigger?
Oh, it was huge. It was huge. There was probably 500 assets on there.
Okay, and so you cherry picked, or
we cherry picked the ones that we thought that in areas that we were interested in, which were non-judicial states, is what we were focusing on.
Gotcha. So at this time, you were already out of, playing in your backyard.
We had moved. This was sort of that first big step to not buying in Florida. We had purchased a few outside the state, but now it was like, okay, we're moving on.
Did you have your boots on the ground type teams? No.
Mistake number one.
Okay.
That was a mistake. We didn't have boots on the ground.
All right, keep going.
And so what we did is we found the assets, and we sent the whoever we were buying them from sent us they said, look, you need to put money in escrow.
Okay.
Right? So we put money in escrow, and I was like, well, we need an inspection period, quote unquote. We need to run our due diligence. Inspection period. We need due diligence period. And so they're like, well, we need the money. We need to know that you're a real buyer. So we're like, fine. So we wired $250,000 to this attorney that we didn't know. Right? And we were real nervous about it. And we signed paperwork that said we had like 14 days to get the due diligence.
Okay.
Right? So they were like, okay, give us the due diligence. They're like, all right, we'll set up a data room for you. And they're like sending us emails, and they're going, hey, you should have the data files. And they tell us that on a Thursday afternoon, and I wasn't in on Friday. So I'm like, whatever, I'll deal with it on Monday. Well, Monday comes in, I'm like, yeah, no, there's no data files. I don't know what you're talking about. They're like, well, we shared them to you through Dropbox. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't have any, I'm searching my email, I'm searching Dropbox, I've got nothing. And, Monday turns into Wednesday. Wednesday is like, now Friday. And I'm like, guys, where are these files? Mm-hmm. And I don't hear anything back from them. Well, Monday comes back around, and they're like, listen, you have the files. I can see you've got the files. We send them to you in Dropbox. I'm like, look, I don't have any files. I got no email. They're like, look, it's right here. And they re-forward me the link. And the link is for Box. It's not for Dropbox. It's for Box, which is a competitor of Dropbox. And apparently I had a Box account. I didn't even know it. And Box has a feature that it auto accepts all invitations, which I don't know, but it auto accepts invitations. And so I was just like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, the clock has been ticking in my head.
So your due diligence period is running down.
Is running down and running down.
They should reset that at that point.
Well, it's running down quickly. And I'm like, listen, you know, here's the issue. And they're like, oh, well, just do your due diligence. And so we run our due diligence, and we had this collection of loans we were going to buy, and we start getting in there and start running our DD, and we come to find out that like half the homes had been lost to tax deed already, like, which means that like it was unsecured debt.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Of whatever was left over, half of those had been demolished because the city had seen them unfit to live in. And so we're like, I'm in a panic at this point because I'm like, oh shit, we've got money out. Our due diligence period is questionable at best on when it's expiring. And like, how am I, like, I mean, you guys sent us these assets that are garbage. So it was just such a, like, oh my gosh. So they end up replacing, they're like pretty cool about it. They end up like, look, we'll replace the assets. Let's find new ones for you. And they're like, okay. And like, look, like I'm real worried about, I'm like, look, I got this $250,000 and it's not my money.
Yeah.
Like I got a fiduciary responsibility. I'm like, so I'm like, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
And we end up getting it to where they end up giving us an extension on our due diligence period. We replace the assets. We fill it up with actual assets that have not been lost, that are decent looking assets. And, they end up sending us the collateral files on everything. So we close a transaction. They have to send us back money. And we start getting collateral files in. And one of the collateral files, which is one of the ones we bought that was local, is here in our backyard. There was nothing original in the collateral file except for the lost note affidavit. And they said, you know, they gave us insurance policies on all of them, title policies. So, you know, I felt pretty comfortable, but it was like, look, I was still fairly green, but I knew, look, having nothing original, just a lost note affidavit wasn't good.
That wasn't good.
No.
Wow.
And so that was kind of scary. And so that's when we were like, okay, we need to sort out paper stack. But then sort of I don't know if it was like, you know.
How did you miss those ones the first time around?
Because we put an indicative bid in.
I mean, but the ones that they replaced them with, was that on the tape already?
Yeah, they were on the tape.
And so they just found them and kind of said, hey, these are decent.
No, we did. They said, we'll go find more of them. And we were like, okay, well, we need to find more of them. So we went through and looked and started searching and doing all that stuff. And at that point, we're like, okay, these will work. But so to close, the trade's closed out. You know, we've got the collateral files. And it was sort of the final, like, kick in the gut. And it shouldn't matter. But it was like, I think we ended up buying, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 assets on that trade. And I think they wound up scalping it for like $50,000 in fees on us. Like whoever was selling it to us was getting it from somebody else because they accidentally sent us their internal spreadsheet that had their spread on there. And TJ and I, we got the spread and we're like, oh man, that sucked.
They put $50,000 worth of fees on
Mm-hmm. We got. I mean, so fast forward.
Wow. God.
Yeah.
$50,000 worth of fees.
Yeah.
What was the final price on it? The $250?
I don't even. No. We ended up we ended up buying it. I think they sent back $140, so we probably paid. I mean, we were like the $120 range.
So nearly half of it was fees.
Almost half of it was fees.
Oh my gosh.
But dude, so listen to this. So fast forward, we end up making probably $120,000 on one asset because we ended up foreclosing. The girl there was just one girl in there, was in Georgia, and I can't remember, South Park or High Park, Georgia. It was right outside Atlanta. She ends up like trying to buy the house, is paying us money, and ends up like, it's like, look, can you, because it was her mother's house, she was trying to get it, never could do anything, so we had to take the house back. So we took the house back, and it was at a point when the market was, it was just before, it was maybe a year and a half ago when the market was maybe 2 years ago, when the market was just like really starting to rocket ship up. And so we ended up doing well on that one. But we made money on every single deal.
How long do you have to hold that?
We were collecting rent on it too.
Oh.
So, I mean, she was paying us rent.
Oh, okay. So you kept that asset for a while.
Oh, yeah. We kept that one for, 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
But collected rent on it. And then after that, we sold it for a huge nut. Just made huge money on it. But we made money on everything, even the one that had no...
the lost note?
Yeah, we ended up turning around and reselling that one for like a $5,000 profit, like immediately.
The note itself?
Well, the lost note. the mortgage.
Yeah.
We ended up selling that one immediately. And,
wow.
I was like, we got to get this one out of here. Because they wouldn't sign the house over to us, so it was just...
What do you think ever happened with that one?
No.
I
don't know. No, I mean, there were some good deals. I mean, that will kind of go to show you that no matter what, however, like, if you buy something cheap enough...
Wow, you were...
we were at like 20, 25 cents on the dollar.
So you made it work.
We made it work. We made money, but man...
That was a tough one?
Yeah.
I remember TJ kind of saying something about that where he's like eating dinner with them. And you guys don't have any clue where this money's at, and you're just like, I have no idea where this money's at.
Well, I know where the money is. It's just, it was my first time doing business where I wasn't buying from a hedge fund. We were buying from somebody that we knew, and I forget how we even met these people, this guy, but we met this guy, and he was hooked us up with, I think it was Peak Servicing, which was I think they're out of business now, a nightmare of a servicing company, or horrible. And then this guy brought us, you know who was actually in on that trade?
Dickie Baldwin.
Yep. Well, Dickie Baldwin. And of course, Dickie wasn't the front man on it and didn't know much about it. He was just kind of, as Dickie is, a connector. He was connecting the pieces, but it was actually pretty...
It's at 6 degrees of separation when
Dickie Baldwin.
Dickie Baldwin's in there somewhere.
Yeah, Dickie Baldwin's like Kevin Bacon. So, no, that was definitely one of those war stories where you're like... it started Paper Stack, and it was our first...
Well, then it turned out good.
Yeah, it's a larger trade, and we did really well in it, but it was really just all the pieces of that puzzle that went wrong...
Were the actual foundation
for Paper Stack. Like, if you look at what Paper Stack is today,
yeah,
the foundational pieces that went really, really off, we tried to fix the system with Paper Stack by doing that.
So I like it, because your worst trade actually, we probably wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for that trade.
Maybe not. I mean, maybe not.
Wow. So had things gone easy, you'd probably been like, we can get by. But it was like, you're just like, this is so...
No, we loved the space. I mean, at this time, we'd been in the space for 2 years, and we're like, man, this investment class, I remember when we got into it, I came from the wholesale side of the business and the fix and flip and the rental portfolio. And, TJ and I had a wholesale company with a partner, Calvin Brown, Investment Homes Direct, that we started after we left RealNet. And it was really good. But the thing about wholesale is it was really easy to get into it. And so when the bank agent, the first time the bank agent introduced me, or was introduced to me by our REO agent, Bagel, it was like I was asking around to other people, like, hey, did you ever bought notes? And you kind of start asking around to the circle of people that you do business with. And that was at the time like wholesaling and fix and flips and rentals here locally in Orlando, and nobody knew about it. They were like, no, notes, like hard money loans? Or I'm like, no. Like, do you ever buy any notes from the banks? They even sell those? They're like, no. I don't think so. So we were like...
That's perfect. That's the Blue Ocean strategy.
We were just like, hey. And that's kind of how I always been. Like, I would always look at something, and if everybody... Like, when the REOs hit... This was a really good example. I got really good at, like, hitting, like, wholesale deals for, like, $50,000, $60,000 fees on one house, because everybody was offering on this pile of REO inventory, right? And I would still offer on them, because you want to get your $5,000 hits. But I would just go, and I started looking at like probate deals or land, or not land trust, but like estates. Because I was like, well, those people are probably dead, and there's people there who want to sell they're like, people are like, the real estate market was super low, and like those people want to sell their house because they just inherited it, and like they're probably not getting many offers because everybody's offering on the REO stuff.
I remember that story you told me, how it was basically, and this is great for people that just are listening. I remember where we were. It was like 5 or 6 in the morning. We're at Retro, left the gym, and so we were working out.
Okay.
And he told me how to do it was, you would look at, find a estate that has like 5 or 6 heirs that all knew that, hey, look, you know, I'm gonna get whatever 10% or whatever.
You say like 5, or if there's 5 people and they're gonna get, each gonna get, say it's $100,000 house. We'll just use that as numbers, and they're all thinking, I'm gonna get 20 grand.
Yeah.
Right? And so I would always find, it's a double-edged sword, but I would like to find them where there was like 5 people who were going to get 20 grand as opposed to 2 people who are going to get 50 grand. Because when it's 2 people, there's less decision makers, but if I tell them like, hey, I need to get it for 70, well, that means they're each losing 15 grand, right? Versus if I tell 5 people, I need to get it for 70, they're each losing 6 grand, right? So 5 people are like, it's only $6,000 less.
Yeah.
It's okay. Versus, you know, well, shit, I'm losing 15. That's like, it's a lot more to stomach. So I would always go for, you say like Blue Ocean Strategy, I would always like do that. And then when just be on the opposite side of the herd. And that's how it kind of worked out. And so once we found out that nobody was doing notes, at least locally, we're like, let's do it.
That's super cool. That's super cool. That's a really cool story, man. I always like hearing that one. That's one you can put your kids to sleep with.
Yeah,
it's a bedtime story, but it's a really good one. So I like that. That's the worst note transaction Rick's ever had, and thank God he had it, because he would have never ran into me at Publix, and even when he ran into me at Publix, I had my daughter's backpack on. I remember I didn't think I was going to see you there or anybody there, but I had a.
Why would you be wearing her backpack in the grocery store?
I don't know. I forgot why. She was I don't know where she was, but I had her backpack on. She wasn't with me. It's probably not good, but
Yeah. Poured the tears out of you on that one, huh?
Yeah, but that's sad. All right, well, cool, man. Yeah, that's it for this podcast. If you guys have something you want to hear, always welcome for new stories. Of course, subscribe, like, all that other stuff, share it. And what's your worst story? Tell us if you're a note investor. Put in the comments below. See if we can collect some stuff. Someone with the best story gets a T-shirt. Yeah, if you got a really bad story.
Yeah, if you've got a really nightmarish story. Well, why don't we do this? We'll choose the worst one and give them a T-shirt, but also bring them on and
tell the story.
Host them on the podcast. You can come on and tell your story.
That'd be cool.
All right, in the comments, give me your worst note story, and we'll bring you on the podcast, and you get to get the interview and get the spotlight on you for a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good to me. Cool. See you guys.